Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the overall basic run there. And this is the Wrestling Challenge review series. This is Wrestling Challenge for the 28th of April. 19 and 91, we continue our 1991 foray. Kind of I don't know if I'd say a bizarre year, interesting year. Lots of people are not huge fans of 91. I tend to be a fan of 91. I actually like 88 through 92 the best. 93 things started to slip, but and I became a fan in 89. So the year before I didn't dislike 1987, but I just wasn't as familiar with the various talents that are here. Anyway, so we move to the the as mentioned April 28th edition of things, and ultimately that amounts to Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, Jim Neidhart, including Sergeant Slaughter, Colonel Mustafa, and General Adnan as guest on the Barbershop. Also including special report segment talking about Andre the Giant, turning down Sensational Sherry's offer to be his manager, featuring closing comments from the Intercontinental Champion Mr. Perfect and Bobby Heenan regarding his title match against Tugboat the following week. We open with Davey Boy Smith, Brooklyn Brawler. Davey Boy, of course, hits the running suplex, a couple hip tosses, and the running power slam for a victory in the simplest of runs there. Anyway, so Orient Express with Mr. Fuji defeating Jim Evans, Dale Wolf at 2:15. Tatanka pinning Evans with a German or Tanaka pinning Evans with a German suplex into a bridge following the sidekick from Kato. Kato, of course, new to the Orient Express with Sato leaving. Really basic stuff. The Orient Express still remains for into 1992 anyway. Decent enough run there. It's, it's certainly not, I guess you couldn't really call it the best of situations for them as a team. But again, kind of getting into the run, as it were. And, the Orient Express concept is something they put some time into. And they were around through early 1992, I think it is. Something like that. Anyway, we move into the next part of things. It's kind of interesting there. So, as we kind of go through the different forays of people into different situations, as it were, kind of getting to I guess you'd say, a better place, something like that. But certainly managing to get somewhere decent and ultimately kind of getting there from that perspective as well. Davey Boy Smith again managing to, the Orient Express managing to get an advantage there. The Andre the Giant segment is already covered on our Superstars version of the program, so worth going out of your way to see that. Of course, Mr. Fuji managing the Orient Express. The Rockers, who started the year with the other version of the Orient Express, highlighted here. $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, also having a squash match there, and managing to go into a foray into that there. So ultimately, $1 Million Man having the, I guess you'd say, run in a way there. DiBiase defeating Steven Dillon. Submission $1 Million Dream 201. Falling fist drop, suplex, and ultimately the $1 Million Dream super short match as we get forward into the latter part of this run. DiBiase obviously, going into the Piper thing pretty regularly. Ricky Steamboat defeating Tom Stone, 230 flying body press, Steamboat arm drags, and other basic maneuvers, drop kicks, and the Dragon doing the breathing of fire thing, which he does through his leaving in 1992. Not sure why they brought him back for just a year, but anyhow, that's what ended up happening. So, why you would have Ricky Steamboat, one of the best workers of all time, and let him go that quickly. I don't know that Vince ever forgave him for leaving the way he did in '87 after winning the Intercontinental Championship when he did there. So, that may be a tie to that. Anyhow, kind of going forward here, and again, the Virgil $1 Million Man thing is pretty major at the time, although the Roddy Piper feud seems to take precedence. They continue to talk about the Boston Garden and the Texas Tornado and Rick Martel feud continues. Bobby Heenan talking about the May 18th match. Bret Hart asking for a 30-minute match with the Barbarian. Obviously, they must have gone 15 and went to a 15 or 20 at the Garden the previous week or previous month and gone to a draw. Highlight for a WrestleMania Best of WrestleMania series. It's like a 2-hour pay-per-view, hot ticket sort of thing. And back in those 7, you could easily fill 2 hours with can't-miss stuff. I don't think you could fill 2 hours of can't-miss stuff from the last 10 Manias these days. But anyhow, IRS continuing to cut his vignettes, talking about the various people cheating on their taxes, etc. and so forth. He is unimpressed there. Sergeant Slaughter says that the friendship between Brutus Beefcake and none other than Hulk Hogan is something that bothers him a bit. Kind of going forward there. Then we see, in our kind of unlimited 2, the Jake Roberts going at it with Earthquake eventually at the Boston Garden May 18th. The Barbarian up here, the Barbarian managed by Bobby Heenan for a little while. That managerial thing lasts until 1992 or so. Barbarian kind of, going at it, punches, kicks, headbutts and the like. Barbarian with the flying clothesline off the top rope. Probably got the better of the pushes. Rob Allen is his opponent, and a boot to the face is the finish for that particular match. The Ultimate Warrior against Rick Martel is up next. Shoulder block and splash. About 6.5 minutes to that match. We'll cover that in more detail here because the Ultimate Warrior going into a program with The Undertaker and then into what would have been a Jake Roberts program a little bit later in the year. Anyway, but Jake ends up, or the Warrior ends up leaving right around SummerSlam 91. So Warrior only here for a few more months, as it were. They're plugging the WBF at the time. And ultimately, manages to do what he can where he can. And the Warrior, out. Martel tries to take him down a couple of times. The flying shoulder tackle Martel, pretty good with the stalling. Also takes amazing bumps for the Warrior. Clotheslines, body slams, hip tosses Martel up in a huge way for the hip tosses. They actually run through the commercial break. Martel comes back and is in control, punching, kicking at the Warrior. Warrior fighting from underneath. Not necessarily sure that it needs to happen. Something like a backbreaker with the Warrior, although Warrior does fight back. And I guess this is around sweeps time, right? End of April, beginning of May. Shoulder tackle and a win there. Desert Storm match from Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter going forward. Hogan mentions Slaughter carrying napalm with him. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But anyway, Bret Hart and the Barbarian, Saturday night, the 18th, return match, 30-minute time limit. Texas Tornado and the Warlord. Hacksaw Duggan and Colonel Mustafa. Duggan in the Sheik years later. Legion of Doom, Nasty Boys tag team titles. That ends up being a big thing in the Boston Garden also. And Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, and Jake Roberts. And Jake Roberts and the Earthquake running things here. A short promo as Kurt Hennig basically says he's not the least bit intimidated by having to face off against Tugboat. And there we go. We will close on that note. We'll be back with more right after this.